Alright, in this video I'll finish things up on this review for homework in chapter 6. Alright, so on number 4, part D, we've got 6x squared equals x plus 1. Now, when you're factoring to solve a quadratic equation like this, you want 0 on one side and everything else on the other. And it's got to be in descending order, where you got x squared, then the x term, then the constant. So we would want to subtract x on both sides and subtract 1 on both sides. We'll get 6x squared minus x minus 1 is equal to 0. And so now let's see if we can factor this trinomial by trial and error. So we've got a couple of choices here for 6x squared. We could use 6x and x. But keep in mind, we could also use 2 and 3, or 3 and 2. And so we have a couple of possibilities here. Now for getting this 1, we're going to need 1's here and here. Now, notice that that's a negative 1 here, so these two multiply to a negative 1. And our middle term is negative 1. So let's see if we put a plus here and a minus here. Whoops. We would have a 1x and a minus 6x. That's not going to give us minus 1x. And it doesn't really matter with the signs. We're not going to be able to get a minus 1x. So it's got to be the 3x and 2x that we're going to need. So 3x times 2x does give us the 6x squared. We got 1 times 1. Now notice our middle term is negative 1x, and so we want our biggest product, which will be 3x here, to be negative, and the other one to be positive. So notice we're going to have a 2x and a minus 3x, and that's going to give us that minus 1x in the middle. And so that is the right combination. Alright, so we've got two factors that multiply to 0, so either 3x plus 1 is 0, or 2x minus 1. And we'll subtract 1 on both sides and divide by 3. Oops. And so we're going to get x is negative 1/3. And over here, if I add 1 to both sides, I'll get 2x equals 1. And divide by 2, we're going to get x equals 1/2. Now, I wanted to show you e because it's got just a little twist to it. You could factor it the way that it is, as far as you could just, set it up with two binomials and factor it. But you notice there's a common factor of 2. So the easiest thing to do is to factor out the 2 first. And then we need, the 2 is going to stay there, but we need to factor this trinomial here. X times x is x squared. 1 times 1 is 1. Everything's positive here. Notice we're going to have a 1x for the inner product and a 1x for the outer product. And that is 2x, so that is correct. Now be careful here. We have 3 numbers that multiply to give us 0. It has nothing to do with multiplying by 2. One of these factors must be 0. So either x plus 1 is 0 or x plus 1 is 0. I don't need to do that again. And so I get negative 1. And so our solution is just negative 1. The 2 doesn't add anything to our solutions. So there may be a problem here or there that you'll run into where you can factor out a factor like that, and it'll make your other factoring easier. All right, last problem. We're going to use quadratic formula. So let's see if you know this thing. I don't know if you ever heard of the quadratic formula song. It's x equals minus b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Alright, that's quadratic formula song. Alright, but anyway, in this problem, notice a is 1. That's the number in front of x squared. B is going to be 3. And c is going to be negative 1. So notice if there's a minus in front of the number, you got to take that sign. Alright, so here, minus b, that'll be negative 3. Plus or minus the square root. B squared, that's 3 squared, or 9. Minus 4 times a, which is 1. Times c, which is negative 1. And that's all over 2 times a, which is going to be 2 times 1. So finally, we get negative 3 plus or minus. This is where you need to be careful. This is 9 minus 4 times 1 times negative 1. Well, that's negative 4, but we're subtracting negative 4. 9 plus 4, because subtracting a negative we're going to add. That's going to become 13, and we'll have 2 in the denominator. Now, in the problems you're going to do on chapter 6, I believe, you're going to have to change this to a decimal number. And so you should be able to put that into your calculator. You want to be careful when you do. When you put in negative 3 plus the square root of 13, you're going to want to hit enter and then divide by 2. Otherwise, it'll do this division first and then add the negative 3. When you do it, you should get 0.3028. When you put in negative 3 minus the square root of 13, again hit enter, divide by 2, you should get negative 3.3028. And so that's just a little reminder of how we use the quadratic formula. All right, and that's it for this review.